So
It does. It does. Just like screwing, what's the thing? Screwing for virginity is bombing for peace is like screwing for virginity kind of
yeah,
thing. Yeah.
fair. Yeah,
I think
that's about
that's
right.
like the old 60s saying. So
Yep.
yeah, so we wanted to just do a live with you guys and see what you thought. I have a lot of thoughts about this the weekend and what happened, and then everything that happened today with Iran's retaliation and whatnot. Um, it has been quite the last 72 hours or so. So
That
let me
is
make sure that
correct.
we've got this streaming.
We're kind of new
And
to this. That's our is that this is our
yeah, yeah.
second or third live, so we're trying to get it down. So bear with us.
Yeah, so
And
we appreciate you guys, your patience. All right, so yeah, we do have it up. Did you share?
yes, I retweeted. So
Okay, yeah.
that should be going.
So what happened? All right, let's go. Let's recap real quick. We had the war started June 13th. I remember because that was my birthday. And
Friday the
Israel,
13th.
right? Israel had a surprise attack on Iran. They did it multi-stage. They did apparently they had built a drone facility within a hidden drone facility within the country of Israel or of Iran that they were able to activate. They executed, I believe it was 12 generals or 9 generals, 12 nuclear scientists at home in the middle of the night with their families. And they took out initially it was their air defense. They were able to hack it, from what I believe, and then Iran got it back on track, and then Israel hacked it again. I don't actually know how they've been taking it out, but um, we do know that Israel has had a lot of control over the skies. Iran has retaliated. They initially started off with, I think, the first 2 to 3 days, they were lobbing somewhere between 80 and 120 missiles a day. Something happened on the 16th. I believe Israel then targeted their missile launchers because the number of missiles being launched from Iran just kind of falls off a cliff, right? And
Right.
yesterday, Jerusalem Post estimated that Iran had launched a total of 500 missiles. Now we know that their missile stock or that their stockpiles were anywhere from between 3,000 and 5,000 was the estimate. Nobody knows for sure. So definitely 500, anywhere from 10 to 15%. They still have a butt ton of missiles in
Right.
their stockpiles. They just don't have any way to launch them, apparently.
Right.
So anyways, that goes on for a week. Trump comes in on Sunday, and we are told, like, all week long, the U.S. has to join. We have to join. Oh, if we don't join, there's going to be a mushroom cloud over New York City. I mean, Mark Levin quite literally said that on Fox News. You know, just the most ridiculous, hyperbolic, um, batshit insane rhetoric about Iran is going to murder us all. Right?
Yep.
They're going to they're transferring nuclear weapons to the Houthis. They have sleeper cells. We had a recycle of the Sarah Adams claim that they had brought in. There's like RPG launchers, and they were going to take down commercial planes. They had brought those across the border during Biden's border crisis. Just total hyperbolic psycho shit.
Yeah.
And that was to convince us to get in to the war. Trump launches his non-war
Yep.
airstrikes. These were not warfare airstrikes, but he launches them on Saturday. He drops a total of 14 MOPs. These are 30,000-pound bunker buster bombs, and 12 of them were dropped on Fordo, which is Iran's giant nuclear enrichment facility, and then 2 were dropped on Natanz. I think I'm saying that right. I don't know. It's Nanataz. And that one, the Natanz, I know I'm butchering that, but It's like
Yeah.
20 meters underneath ground or underground. So the bunker buster definitely would have been able to get through because they said that they can penetrate about 60 meters. But Fordo is anywhere from 80 to 120 meters. We don't actually know for sure. So, like I said, the bunker buster can get to 60. So that's why they dropped 12 of those 12 30,000-pound bombs on
Wow.
this giant mountain. And then turns out yesterday we found out that, oh, whoopsie daisy, all of the uranium was actually moved days prior to the bombing, which would hint that Iran had been warned that this was going to happen, that it wasn't actually the secret surprise, which again makes sense if you think about it, because you're talking about a massive nuclear disaster, right?
Yeah.
If we bombed this uranium enrichment plant and all of the uranium is there, all of the centrifuges are full and they're operating, they're spinning constantly. I don't know how it would look, but it would probably be a massive meltdown, right? It's a nuclear. There are nuclear reactors, I believe, that are there. I don't quite understand all the science behind it.
Yeah.
But, so that's the recap. Now, yeah, Trump drops. He doesn't start a war. He apparently, according to all of his sycophants, he simply, it's not a war. He's just conducting airstrikes on a sovereign nation.
Right. Which we would totally feel. If people just
Yeah.
started doing airstrikes, we would be like, not a war. Just, they're just trying to show how peaceful they want to be.
Right.
And, of course, they keep on, the justifications are first it's, nuclear weapons, then it's regime change, because they don't want to admit that it's really regime change, because we all know that failed horribly in 8 countries.
Yeah. It's, I mean, there was some disturbing stuff being published in the Jerusalem Post last week. I believe it was, it was the op-ed, it was the editorial page of the Jerusalem Post. So this was their editorial staff. It was giving suggestions of what should happen to Iran when they toppled the Ayatollah. And it was like a 12-step list of things. And one of the things was, we need to partition the country and give all of the ethnic groups their own parcel of land, which is insane.
It's insane.
Right? Yeah.
It's insane.
And it's infuriating too.
Yeah, I mean, I think Ted Cruz's interview with Tucker Carlson really showed how these people have no, excuse my language, effing idea what they're doing. Like, Ted Cruz didn't know the population of Iran. He doesn't know the ethnic makeup. And there are all these, like, the Babylon Bee making fun of it. Oh, Tucker Carlson catches Ted Cruz not knowing the Ayatollah's favorite Pokemon player. That is ridiculous. That's not what this is about. If you are going to topple a regime and destroy a country, you need to understand what it's like. You need to understand the population makeup. You need to understand the population. Or else you have no ability to predict what's going to happen. I mean, I don't think you can predict what's going to happen anyway. But like, this is, I mean, just total insanity. And we did this before, and it was an utter failure. And Iran is a much bigger country. It's a much more powerful country. It controls a lot more in terms of, oil and that kind of thing. So, I mean, this is just...
Yeah. I believe that Iran has the 3rd largest proven oil reserves in the world. It is a very resource-rich country. Right now, I believe that they produce 9% of the refined oil on the market. Most of that goes to China. 90% of their oil is sold to China. And because it's heavily sanctioned, China gets to buy it at a discount. Most people don't know that, but China gets about a 20% discount on the oil that they purchase, because it's not being traded through OPEC, it's not being sold through OPEC, and so it's not subject to the constraints or influxes of world market, right? The supply and demand of it's just a fixed price. So again, that's something that's always kind of irked me about this discount, this massive discount that China gets on its oil, because we have to back up Israel all the time, and Israel hates Iran, so we have to hate Iran, and we can't bring them into the fold and just treat them like everybody else. And no, I'm actually not interested in any of your opinions on that. Um,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not, I'm not, I don't want to hear about 1979. I just don't. Okay. Like so much has happened since 1979. If I hear one more person bring up the friggin' embassy ordeal, I'm just going to lose my mind
Well,
because
also, everything that happened then was a result of us overthrowing the regime in the 50s.
yes.
So,
Well, it's
that's
yeah,
a,
and then not just that. I mean, we quite literally shot down an Iranian airliner in 1989. Like we just blew it out of the water and like blew it out of the sky and murdered 290 people. And I don't even think we ever said that was an accident. I don't know why we did that. It's one of those weird things that just like happened. And nobody talks about it. So when they say like, oh well, Iran was behind this or they murdered this, I'm like, yeah, well, we've done a lot of shitty things too. So
yep.
I don't even know what
A
to
lot of
tell
shitty
you.
things.
Yeah.
And I mean, not to mention a lot of what's, well, I don't know how much of this is like, it's hard to estimate, but, Israel is just killing Palestinians daily now, and that's not even making any kind of news. They're just
Yeah.
massacring them, starving Palestinians as they go get food, and nobody's paying attention because now this is the new topic of the day. And I don't know how
Yeah.
much of that is strategic. I don't, some of it might be like Netanyahu's like, hey, we're getting our way with everything. No one's going to stop us no matter what we do. Now let's go do that Iran thing I've been trying to do since 1996. So
Right. Yeah, it's really disturbing stuff what's been happening in Gaza
it's,
every single day, hundreds of people. It's not just like dozens, it's literally hundreds of people just being flat out executed when they're trying to get food. And I said this as soon as they came up with this idea, this humanitarian organization that was going to be ran by the US, and they brought in freaking mercenaries to run it. Um, it was very clear that number one, they were trying to create kind of like panic for food. They didn't let any food into the Gaza Strip for 72 days at least. And then now, of course, they've been doing caloric counts, only letting in so many calories per person per day, so as to keep them right on the edge of famine. It's really sick shit.
I
And
mean, and that was stuff they said before October 7th was
yeah,
that
well,
they keep them on a diet.
right. It's stuff
Yeah.
that they do. It's stuff that they've been doing.
I
And
also
so,
I just wanted to give Daria a shout out. She says of several things, but boomers ruin everything. This is the war they've always wanted. Nice. I agree with that mainly. There are a few good boomers, but they mostly suck.
all right, so we've got here, just one second, Muslim Traveler. I want to get to you real quick because I want to talk about, I do want to talk about Iran and what happened today with their retaliation, because I tweeted out that I thought that this was really stupid on their part. And just looking at it purely from an Iranian standpoint, I do think that they were in between a rock and a hard place. Obviously, the US is significantly more powerful. We clearly have air advantage and weapons advantage, armory. We could not invade on ground. Like we would get slaughtered. There's no doubt about it. But we can destroy pretty much everything that's, that makes their country great if we want to. And they know that. They understand that. And
Yeah.
so they couldn't really retaliate, but at the same time, what Israel did on the 13th was such a brutal blow to the power structure. It was basically we can infiltrate you and we can murder you
Yeah.
with your families anytime we want to, and with no repercussions whatsoever, right? So of course the government of Israel or of Iran has to respond. And so now with this so it was like a damned if they do, damned if they don't thing, because if they didn't respond, then what is their population going to do? They're going to see them as weak. And they're
Right.
going to want to replace them with strong leaders, because when people
Yeah.
are attacked, they want strong leadership. They don't want this bullshit conciliatory, we got to make peace thing.
Yep.
They have been getting walked over, the country of Iran. I mean, Israel's been doing whatever the hell it wants to do now for years now, just, randomly executing their generals, randomly executing their nuclear scientists, political executions or assassinations by the dozens. And there's never any consequences for it. So people, rightfully so, in Iran are pissed and they want retribution. But they can't, I mean, like, so again, I feel like I did feel, how do I say, like, sorry, obviously, because it's still a government and I just never sympathize with governments, period. But I did see the dilemma that they faced, right? And I don't know what they were going to do, but I would imagine that it's very hard for the people in Iran right now, because they're thinking, well, you guys are, especially if what Trump says is true, is that there's going to be a ceasefire, because it means that Israel just got away with doing whatever the hell it wanted to do. And that's it. They can come in and murder people anytime they want to, and nobody's going to stop them.
No. As much as I hate the idea of Israel getting away with whatever it wants to do, it probably is the best case scenario, because any kind of escalation is probably not.
Well, yeah, definitely. And I hate to say this, because as an American, it bothers me, because I don't even want our troops in the region, period.
Right.
I want them out of there. I want them gone. I don't want them anywhere near any of this stuff. So obviously I don't want an escalation whatsoever. Yeah. But at the same time, ideally we would just pull on out and let them fight it out, and you would see, we would see what would happen if the U.S. wasn't there. We all know what would happen, exactly what would happen. Israel would be put in its place. I don't know if it would necessarily come crashing down or whatnot, but I definitely think that there would be a rebalance of power, and they would have to start acting in accordance with the rest of humanity.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. The only reason they can do this is because the U.S. comes to save their asses every time.
Yeah, and not just that, but because the U.S. looks the other way as they break every single international law, humanitarian law, everything.
Yep.
So, what are the explanations for Netanyahu's happiness, along with all his propaganda network, as far as I know, for the U.S. attack on those 3 enrichment sites? If Iran was told up front and sites were evacuated, I mean, Israelis must know too. No, did they jump on the first opportunity? So, yeah. So what we found out yesterday was that the sites were evacuated. We know that no one died. Iran said no one died. And again, these are uranium enrichment facilities. They are occupied 24/7. Okay, so one of two things: either they were destroyed and they were empty, right? There was no humans there, so why would they not be there? I mean, this is something that is just, you're always going to have a staff running, or they weren't destroyed, as has been claimed. Either way, no deaths, and the uranium is gone, right? So I think I haven't seen Netanyahu's reaction right yet to this latest announcement of the ceasefire. Presumably, Trump says that there's a ceasefire. Presumably, Netanyahu agreed to it. Obviously, I mean, if he didn't, then why not? I mean, then Trump would be obviously not telling the truth. But
that's happened before.
Yeah, but this is a little different. I don't see him committing, because he's basically saying Israel is committing to this.
Yeah,
and
that's
so it's weird. I don't know. They really do seem to be taking some kind of victory lap here, and it feels a little bit premature or fake.
Yeah.
So I guess time will tell, because again, we learned from the when the U.S. struck on Saturday, we learned that basically all of their talks, this is what we're told anyway, it was all fake. They were faking it. They were kind of leading Iran along just so that they could get them to get their guard down, and then of course Israel could attack. That's what we learned. Over the last week since the 13th. So,
do you think that Trump intended to have the U.S. involved all along?
I know that people, this has been like the great debate, right? I still believe that Trump doesn't want to do this. I don't think he wants to go to war. I don't think that
Yeah.
that's in his nature. I just don't agree with that. I
Yeah.
went over all of the statements, because that was the big thing over the weekend. He said for years now that Iran can't have a nuclear weapon, blah, blah, blah. Well, I'm here to tell you that I looked at the shit. The freaking White House put out a list of all of his statements, and I actually went through it. And let me tell you something. Anybody that tries to tell you that this is like a thing Trump talked about for decades is full of shit. All right. You're full of it. Because for I can tell you, according to the White House's own list of statements, that Donald Trump, the first time he ever said, we can't allow Iran to go nuclear. That was on November 4th, 2011. He said we. Okay.
Right.
4 years later, he says on January 24th, 2015, we can't let Iran get a nuclear weapon. We can't do it. We cannot let that happen. Again, he says we. That was 6 months before he announced. He doesn't, according to his White House's own list, he does not mention Iran's nuclear weapon program again for 4.5 years. Okay.
Yeah.
Doesn't mention it at all in his first campaign as he's running for president. And then he drops the whole we thing. It's no longer, because the we is important, right? Because it indicates that we, America, cannot let that happen. Now it's no nuclear weapons. You can't give Iran nuclear weapons. Like there's some freaking nuke fairy flying around just giving the shit out for free to everybody, He says, no, we can't let it. No, not we. He says, no, you can't let it happen. You cannot let Iran. But never once in all of these examples, and of course they put together the videos and everything, does he ever, not one time, say, I will use the American military to prohibit Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. So don't freaking tell me that, oh, you should have known, No.
Yeah.
When you run as the peacemaker, when you run as no more wars guy, when you run as I'm going to be the guy that goes and talks to Kim Jong-un, I'm going to be the deal maker. When you say we can't let Iran have a nuclear weapon, I'm thinking you're going to use diplomacy to make this happen. So no, I'm not dumb. I'm not full-hearted. If I believed everything Donald Trump ever said, Hillary Clinton would be freaking locked up. All right.
Yeah.
I'm still waiting.
I was listening to Jeffrey Sachs, I think on Cyrus Jansen, and he was talking about how, there have been many presidents who come in with the intent to change things, like I'm going to do foreign policy differently, and then the guys show up with the briefcase and the black suit and the blue tie, and those are, it's the deep state, and they're like, nope, you're going to do it this way, and it always happens. JFK learned the lesson the hard way. or maybe he was the first one to learn the lesson. But I mean, it's very scary that, I'm not one of those people to whom it comes easily to say like the deep state. This sounds like I shy away from conspiracy theories. I like to be evidence-based and rational. But it's becoming very clear to me that there is a deep state and they're running things. And it does not matter who is actually elected. And I, like you, I do believe Trump doesn't want this. I believe Trump was kind of anti-war. I think his instincts, I think he's a businessman. I think he sees this as bad business. Doesn't make sense for America's interests, as anybody with a brain can see. But there are other people who are running things and they are not elected. And I don't know what we do about that. I really don't.
Yeah, well, we have to, number one, we have to whenever these groups pop up, like we saw this over the weekend, right? The second that the war drums came out, or the second that Israel said, okay, well, now it's time for the U.S. to go in. This was the first real pushback that they have gotten, like real pushback, since 2003, right? Obama,
but do you think it made any difference?
Yeah, I actually do think it made a difference. I think it, number one, caught them off guard. And number two, made them extremely self-conscious about their messaging. And it just made them look like a bunch of hypocrites. I had so many people. I had so much engagement, so many likes. But I get so many messages. Like, if you send me a message and I don't reply, it's just because I get like over the weekend I probably got like 200, maybe even 300 messages. I'm not even
Wow.
kidding you. My inbox was just like flooded with people who are like me. They're MAGA, they're America First, they're normal conservatives, and they're like, what the is going on? Because
Yeah.
I didn't vote for this.
But
You know?
sorry to be Debbie Downer, but like I don't see how it makes a difference in real life, right? Like, so we're all mad, and they know there are a lot more people who are mad, but how is that making a difference in policy? And how can it make a difference in policy?
Well, I think it makes it harder to sell, number one. And number two, you already see like the messaging from the
But
Trump
sorry,
campaign.
but you
Yeah.
don't have to sell it. That's kind of my point. Like, if Americans might hate this, but they're like, whatever, we're gonna do what we're gonna do. And when you
I
vote,
do
when
think
you
you have
vote
to
in the
sell
next
it.
really, I don't think so. Like, because they're a uniparty. Like, when you vote in the next
Right.
election, you get Kamala or you get Trump, and they're both gonna do what we say, and
Right.
they both do what we say.
I do think that there's a danger in Americans checking out and becoming
Yeah.
totally disenfranchised. And I think that they do understand that there is a danger there. I genuinely do believe that when the population just becomes disgusted with the government, when they don't give up
Oh
one way or
man,
another.
you are so much more optimistic than I am. I think they would love for us to just like sit around
I think
drinking
that they
beer,
love-
playing
yeah.
video games, and never pay attention to anything.
But that's the thing. We're not going to sit around and drink beer and not pay attention. We're going to get angry.
Right. We're gonna drink
gonna
beer and get angry.
Yeah, we're going to get angry. But we are going to organize, or we're going to do something. You got to think, look at how much effort Israel has put into anti-BDS. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And that's such a small movement, right?
Yeah.
But they have spent millions, hundreds of millions of dollars lobbying just to stop that, right?
Yeah.
Because they understand that when people get pissed, they will look for things to organize around. And us, people who are online, you think like, oh, who cares if you're on Twitter? Well, guess what? We're actually the most politically active people in the country. We're the ones
Yeah.
paying attention. And so, no, the freaking bots that are like sitting around, scratching their balls, watching sports ball all day. No, they don't care about them. They're happy with them. But people like us, people like our followers, they are worried that we will,
So the power really comes down to like our wallets, and then when they're actually good candidates to vote for, voting for those candidates who provide an alternative.
Right. So, I mean, I do think, you think that you're not, when you're posting, maybe you have 50, 60 followers and you think, it's not. No, I promise you, your voice, your comment, even if it doesn't get any interaction whatsoever, it goes in and it feeds into an algorithm that is only mildly controlled. It's really wild the way that Twitter is. I mean, they do tweak it a little bit, but there's a lot of things that they say will hurt your following, or they'll hurt your, I cuss a lot in my tweets. I feel like that gets fed through a certain algorithm,
Yeah.
and then it helps me to weed out a lot of people that I don't want in my comments,
Yeah.
mentions, because it's pretty much only the people who interact with people with foul mouths that I really want to talk to. Even though I am sorry for all my cussing, I was crashing out pretty hard all weekend.
I mean, this was the weekend for it, so.
Yeah, so all right, here I've got somebody said, were there pallets of cash involved? Let's talk about this. All right, because I'm about tired of this. I have to say this over and over again. I need to go ahead and just make a picture, take it so I can just respond to it. When Obama did the JCPOA deal, part of the deal was that we would unfreeze Iran's money. We didn't give them any money that wasn't already theirs to begin with. The pallets of cash, quote unquote, were nothing more than the U.S. returning funds that we had frozen from Iran. No, we didn't steal that money because we want to, there was a time in this country that we wanted people to have confidence in our banking system. All of that went out the window in 2022 with Russia. But, prior to that, there was a time where we tried to respect things like that. And so, no, we didn't give, the US never gave Iran any money that wasn't already theirs to begin with. All right. And the pallets of cash, that's what it was. I don't know what you want from me. Get over it. Y'all got to get over the freaking cash. We gave them their damn money back. Get over it. So there's that. I don't even know if that person was, they don't follow me. So probably,
Troll. Yeah.
Yeah. Are Democrats sad about it? Were they secretly hoping the U.S. would go to war just so they could bash Trump? Does this assure Trump? Trump is
Probably, yeah.
not getting the Nobel Peace Prize. I don't. I don't know. He would be the first person in the history of the world to get a Nobel Peace Prize for dropping 420,000 pounds of bombs.
No, but I don't doubt the Democrats are happy about this, so they can bash him for it.
I don't know. You saw Hakeem Jeffries come out and say, I'm not a Democrat, by the way, so I feel like that framing was maybe like
I'm not either. I'm an equal opportunity hater. I hate them both so much.
Yeah.
I only like Thomas Massey, and weirdly now I like Marjorie Taylor Greene, which are not words I ever thought I would utter.
Girl, did you see her today? She or yesterday? She's the first person I've ever seen, and I asked somebody to find me, has there ever been a sitting member of Congress to acknowledge Israel's nuclear weapons program? And because she did yesterday. She said they have their own nuclear weapons program. They can protect themselves. And she said, I don't want to fund or fight their wars. So I know that's right. All right.
Okay, Daria's asking who's the gayest neocon. Like, this is, I'm sorry, Daria, this is like the easiest question because it's obviously Lindsey Graham.
Hands down. Yeah. Hands down. Doesn't even, that is, no.
Unless you mean like not literally gay, in which case maybe Ted Cruz.
Oh, God. I hate them all so much. Oh my gosh. Bad. I know. Why am I blanking? Literally, Lindsey Graham is the only one that's coming to mind. But there's so many of them, right?
Yeah.
Will Chamberlain, too, is just awful. Yeah. And then, so somebody says there's no ceasefire. That's all I have on mine. Let me see. Let me refresh. Yep. And then somebody said, anybody talking about a ceasefire is a Jew or a Zionist? I don't know, guys. That's it. I mean, it's just Trump, so it is what it is. You know, he's hoping. And all right, so here's somebody saying, so this was quite the Oh, this is fascinating. Let me share this. So I shared earlier that today in Haaretz, there was a piece that, here's the headline, Key Netanyahu ally says October 7th massacre saved the people of Israel. Era Dairy, chairman of the ultra-Orthodox SAS party, said in an interview on the right-wing channel, Channel 14, that the massacre of October 7th, Trump's election, were great miracles that led to Israel's war with Iran, which is now apparently over, according to Trump. I don't actually know what they even freaking accomplished because, again, just so people know, in April, the New York Times ran a leak from the Biden administration, from the Pentagon, saying that our own intelligence community said that basically for
Okay, Melissa's power went out. So she thinks it might be the Mossad, which I wouldn't be surprised about. Um, I was not sure what was going on there. In any event, I have an earlier morning and I was planning to wrap it up at 9, so I will do that. Thank you all for joining us, and we'll do it again when we have more time, and I'm sure there'll be lots to talk about since everything is crazy right now. So have a great night, and thank you for joining us.